What's up? It's Film Frenzy, and since Avengers Endgame, one of the biggest movies of all time, recently debuted in theaters, I thought it was the perfect time to do my top 10 superhero movies of all time. So taking into account that this is my opinion, and you all have a right to yours, I'd love to hear your top 10s in the comment section down below. But I know there's going to be some controversial picks. Let's get right into this, rolling some honorable mentions, numbers 15 to 11. Now starting off the top 10, I have the original MCU film, Iron Man. Not only is Iron Man one of the most important superhero movies of all time, but it's also one of the best, by far. So this is my favorite Iron Man film. This original Iron Man, albeit having a pretty weak villain with Obadiah Stane, still is just so great on the character development. It's one of the first superhero movies I feel like have such a strong lead character, and also one that goes through such a tremendous change, because like this is one of the first superhero movies where I feel like the lead character isn't really a good guy at the beginning of the film. As you see, like, it's crazy to think about Tony Stark like now post Avengers Endgame, how he is, compared to at the very beginning of Iron Man, where he's this womanizing playboy who's this really bad guy, he's this arms dealer, and then he gets captured. It's an excellent origin story, and it's shown so well by Jon Favreau, who's directing, does a great job. The script is so sharp. Robert Downey Jr. brought back his career with such great acting, such great quips, very snarky, perfectly play the character, yet he's still lovable. That scene where he comes out of the cave, such a powerful scene, one of the best scenes of any superhero movie. So legendary. I mean, there's a reason it was shown in one of the trailers for Avengers Endgame. Plus, when that final scene at the end of the film, which, spoiler alert, I'd be surprised if you haven't seen this movie yet, but when he says, "I'm Iron Man," it sets the tone for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and how these superheroes are going to be, and it is just such a powerful movie overall. Yes, the villain is weak, and it can be a little outdated in some regards. Like, there's definitely newer superhero movies that have expanded on it, but its influence and just its sheer awesomeness cannot be understated. Number 9, I have the beginning of the modern X-Men series, X-Men First Class. X-Men First Class is the first of a few kind of controversial picks, so I think everybody pretty much likes this movie. Some like it a lot, but I know I'm going to probably get some flack for putting it in my top 10. But I have a lot of reasons, and one of the primary ones is this is easily one of the most rewatchable superhero movies. Of all the superhero movies, I feel like this and maybe a couple others are the most I've ever watched. Like, I've watched this movie tons of times just because of how entertaining it is. Not only does it have some good humor, but it has a ton of great heart, drama. There's such great backstories for Magneto and Professor X, and there was such great casting to have Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy play them respectively. They do such a phenomenal job, and it ties right into the original X-Men trilogy so well before all the timeline was all screwed up. There are some downsides, like sometimes it can address some very dark topics a little bit too lightly, but it has that great 60s charm, and it's really cool how it incorporates the Cuban Missile Crisis. I love these X-Men movies and how they relate history to like superheroes. That's always really cool. I feel like of all of them, this is by far the best job at relating a major historical event to the X-Men timeline. And then, of course, there are a bunch of side characters, and they have fun powers. And as a little kid, I love watching it, but I can definitely see why, like, lots of these characters don't really get much development, and they're only in this movie, and that can kind of weigh it down because you just want to see the core characters develop more. But nevertheless, it's a fun movie. It has really just an impactful ending as you see the split between Xavier and Magneto at the end. It reminds me of almost like a Smallville type of how Lex Luthor and Clark Kent kind of divulge as the series unfolds. This just does it so well as you see these two best friends become nemesis basically by the end of the film. Overall, phenomenal X-Men movie. Super underrated.
Gonna get some hate for this one, but number 8 is Amazing Spider-Man.
And this is the one that everybody's going to be like, what the hell? Why is this even in anybody's top 10? I know people overall like it, but they're not huge fans of it. But I've always had a particular fondness for Amazing Spider-Man. I think it is the superior Spider-Man origin film for a variety of reasons. I love Spider-Man 1, as you saw in the honorable mentions. There's so many reasons. It's a great plot, but I really appreciate how this did it so differently. And I've always loved Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. It's really tough to say if I like him or Tobey Maguire better. They're so different. They're both so amazing. They did the parts great. I can't pick one or the other, but what I can say is that the Amazing Spider-Man films do romance far better between Gwen Stacy and Spider-Man. It's just amazing. Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield were dating at the time, so their chemistry is very natural, and it really reflects in the film. And it is just so watchable. The Lizard, maybe he's just a kind of generic villain, like in the Spider-Man universe, but he still does a great job. It's always fun to see like a Peter's mentor, like scientific mentor, kind of start to turn evil, and you see it happening. It's very, very cinematic and just exciting. I do love the intrigue also into like what happened to Peter's parents. I thought that was something very different that the Amazing Spider-Man series tried to do. I mean, the second one kind of failed miserably. That was just a mess. But this one laid some great pieces. I know people often weren't really big fans of it because they just wanted it to be completely a mystery. But I thought it had a great suspense to it, this film. That was like an added element. And overall, just like the darker tone, it just really fit with me. And that scene when Andrew Garfield saves that kid who's like in the car that's like hanging off the bridge. That's just such a beautiful scene when he takes off his mask and reveals it's just like this 18-year-old kid who's trying to save the day. It shows such a humanity, and this movie, it just emotionally resonates with me so much, and it's just exciting every time I watch it. I love this movie, and I think it is the best Spider-Man origin film.
The time-traveling X-Men Days of Future Past comes in at number 7.
Finally, I'm back to movies that actually pretty much everybody believes should be on the list, or at least close to the list. X-Men Days of Future Past is my favorite main series X-Men film, and it's not really tough to see why. I mean, they balance out the original cast and the new cast that was first introduced to X-Men First Class so well. I mean, like, obviously like Infinity War and Endgame were even harder tasks, but this is a very hard task for a superhero movie to do. It was probably the largest scope of any superhero movie until Captain America Civil War came out, and it was just so exciting to see it all work out. The time travel and like the whole continuity is a little bit wonky, but once you get past that, you realize it's an amazing film. Peter Dinklage does a great job as the villain. The Sentinels are really interesting and how it fits into it, and how like the mutant extinction. It's a very dark film, and you really think there's just a lot of stakes to it. I really appreciate that with the X-Men films. I thought they did a great job at expanding Magneto and Xavier after the amazing relationship they built with X-Men First Class, along with the Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen versions in the original trilogy. And it was just such a great job at having Wolverine also, because this is Hugh Jackman's last like big role in one of the main X-Men films. So I thought it was a really great send-off in that regards. He did just a great job. It was really, really cool also to see Kitty Pryde's expanded role in it and how like she sends Wolverine back in time. That was very fun. Overall, I think this superhero movie does time travel better than any other one, and it's just a fun ride from start to finish. It's just a great, just encompassing film of all of the great X-Men movies that have to offer, because there's been highs, there's been lows, but I think this is one of the most extreme highs, and it's very well reflected in the reviews and the fan reception. If only X-Men Apocalypse could have been this good.
Number 6, I have Guardians of the Galaxy, the epic space comedy.
Oh, how I love the Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie was such a cultural touchstone when it first came out. I remember that the first trailer dropped, and it was so exciting. That "You're welcome" like tagline was just so like obnoxiously awesome. It just captivated everybody. That trailer looked so exciting. Nobody knew what the hell Marvel Studios was doing when they announced these pretty much no-name ensemble film that's set in space. Like, what? Like, the MCU had never really gone to, like, a space opera territory, and it paid off so much. James Gunn is an amazing writer-director, and you really see just his skills pay off in dividends in this film. And it really just set the tone for, like, one of the best series in all of superhero movies. We still have yet to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but I'm super excited for it. As you can tell, I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I mean, it ended up on the honorable mentions list, but this movie is even better. Introducing the team, it does such a great job. I was talking about how X-Men First Class is so rewatchable. This is the superhero movie that I think is the most rewatchable out of any. I've watched it so many times. The humor stands up so well. It is excellent. The characters are so well casted, and the acting is phenomenal. They're so well developed in just one movie. Yes, the villains are very weak, and Nebula has a smaller role in this that thankfully was expanded in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Avengers Infinity War / Endgame, because I'm so glad she's turned out to be an awesome character. But the really saddest part is definitely that Ronan the Accuser, played by Lee Pace, gets nothing to do, and that was an unfortunate part that was fixed, luckily, in the second one with the villain. I think Ego is awesome. But besides that, the movie doesn't really focus on the villain, so it's okay. It's kind of like a tertiary aspect, and it's really about the characters and the main heroes developing as people. And this is a great one. Like I was talking about with Iron Man, how he changes throughout the story. These characters do that too, and it's so awesome, so exciting how many worlds you see. The action is incredible, the visuals are captivating, so many awesome new colorful characters introduced. This is just such a fun movie.
Number 5, the best Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 2.
This movie is just so amazing for expanding on the original. Doc Ock is an incredible villain. I mean, Green Goblin was great, but I think he's even better. And this kind of like started the trend of like the Spider-Man scientist mentor turning out to be the villain that was followed by like the Lizard Amazing Spider-Man. And Doc Ock is so incredible here because you see he's like really a good guy, but he has too big of an ego, and it gets swallowed up whole into his machines and his technology as it warps him into this whole different person, and it's a very dark tale in that regards, and it is just great to see such a villain-centric and hero-centric story at the same time. I thought that was amazing. I think this is a great job at expanding the romance between Mary Jane and Spider-Man, because that was something that, it was decent, but it was very simplistic in the first one. I know it's a legendary upside down kiss and all, but this one really expanded the relationship, and it leads to a great finale when she realizes who Spider-Man is. That's Peter Parker, and it has that phenomenal end line, "Go get him, Tiger," when she hears that police radio like ringing. That was just such a phenomenal ending. There's a really standout scene, which is everybody loves the train scene where Spider-Man just saves that whole group of people. I love how Spider-Man always is saving the individuals in these movies. It is phenomenal, and that's kind of a little bit where Amazing Spider-Man got that car scene that I love off of this. And this movie, I feel like, just inspired so many Spider-Man movies. It really set the mark for how to do a superhero sequel. Overall, this movie just is everything you want from a Spider-Man movie. I don't think it will ever be reached again, but I'm so thankful that it does exist. Moving right along to Captain America, my favorite superhero,
and his movie, The Winter Soldier.
You'll see a lot more of him on this list. At one time, this was my favorite superhero movie of all time, and it was just so awesome to see such a different film. This is the first one the Russo brothers directed, and you can tell that, like, just how well they did with this. That's why they keep on getting rehired by Marvel, and it makes so much sense. I mean, making it like a 70s style political conspiracy thriller as a Captain America movie, it's just such an odd move, following the more classic Captain America the First Avenger, which is also a great movie, but it paid off so much. Taking the risk was awesome. It was so cool to have Robert Redford as the villain, Alexander Payne. Yes, it's a very different villain, and in some ways it's a little forgettable at times, but nevertheless, it's really cool, and I think they give him enough to work with. There's definitely a lot of great twists in this film, and the whole thing with how S.H.I.E.L.D. is actually like being run by Hydra is just amazing. It had such a great stakes, and it really set the tone for the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, following that big reveal of like what S.H.I.E.L.D. really is. There's some epic finales with the helicarrier and Captain America. It introduced one of my favorite characters, Falcon, who's become Captain America's best friend. He's awesome. Plus, another one of my favorites, the Winter Soldier, who is such a complex character and how he's like Bucky, but then he got brainwashed and stuff, kind of like a little bit of Doc Ock complex, but he's more of an anti-hero now, and he's really just trying to get saved by Captain America. It really just shows off how Captain America is fitting into the contemporary setting, and how he still has that optimism about Winter Soldier, but it's a lot darker, and overall, this movie just is hand-to-hand action so well, because this is at a time when CGI was just getting expanded and expanded in all these superhero movies, and the Russo brothers decided to dial it back a little bit and focus on the practical effects and delivered some amazing fistfights, epic shootouts. This movie is so great for its action, so great for its political intrigue, and just its themes in general. This is a phenomenal superhero movie. And now I got my favorite Captain America movie, Captain America Civil War. And this is not even that much of a Captain America movie in some ways, because it was the next one by the Russo brothers in this series, and it was really expanding to Avengers Infinity War. So they got this massive conflict in, and it's really focuses on Captain America and Iron Man. They're almost co-leads. I would say it's still mostly Captain America, but it delivers so much heart. I've seen this movie many times. I love the expanded role of the Winter Soldier and how you see the Avengers taking sides. I thought it delivered the right amount to the individual characters, because these ensemble movies, it's so easy to get carried away and deliver too much development of a character or too little development of a character, but this one decided to do it perfectly, and I love it for that. It did an awesome introduction, small one, up to Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Also, it delivered Black Panther, and probably my favorite role I've seen him in. He's kind of like the heart of the story in an interesting way, because the theme is about vengeance, and that's really reflected in how you see the contrast between the villain, who's Zemo, who's a really underrated Marvel villain. He delivers this massive plan, which is a bit lofty and maybe a bit far-fetched at times, but it's still awesome and a very different villain than most of the Marvel films, which I love, versus Black Panther, who's dealing with the death of his father, and he's just trying to get vengeance, and he realizes that's not the right way. It's really awesome to see him in such a small but yet impactful role, and really just got me stoked for the Black Panther solo movie. And this also just delivers some epic fights. That airport scene is just spectacular, but my favorite scene in the film for action is actually at the end, in that three-way battle between Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Iron Man, the one you see teased in the trailers, where they're trading blows against Iron Man as they throw the shield around. It's such just a big scene. It's a very meaningful battle. It's so awesome, and it really just has a great conflict, and it has big stakes, because the ending just sets the tone for going into Infinity War. I mean, they don't Captain America and Iron Man don't even resolve their conflicts really until Endgame, so it's very intense for that. It is a psychological thriller in many ways. It is very realistic, and it feels like it's just a realism superhero movie combined the big ensemble feel of an Avengers movie, but with the more down-to-earth Captain America realisticness that was in Winter Soldier. It's the best of both worlds. My favorite Captain America movie, and an amazing trilogy.
The colossal Avengers Infinity War takes the number 2 spot on this list.
Starting to notice a trend here. We're just continuing along with the Russo brother Marvel Studios films, and now we got Avengers Infinity War. And this movie, I had such high hopes, but I was so skeptical that this would not work. I mean, there's so many characters crammed into this. It's only 2.5 hours, which is long for a movie, but for a movie with this much plot, it's very short. And it's so condensed. This movie, you need to watch multiple times, because the amount of plot that's in it is insane. It's so much drama, so much comedy, so many characters that are just introduced to each other for the first time, plus a couple new characters introduced. This is really Thanos' story, and he's such a great villain. Sure, there are definitely some plot holes with his plan, and that's unfortunate, but this movie overall is just spectacular. They still have a main theme, which I love when these movies have a central theme about just trading lives, and the importance of each life matters in this massive fight against Thanos when they're trying to save half the world. And I love the ending too. People say that, oh, it's just kind of like a cliffhanger for the Endgame, but I don't really feel that way. I feel like it's just a movie with a dark ending, and I think that's great. It's so much spectacle, such great action sequences. I mean, Wakanda, Titan, there's so many of them. It's insane. Such great character development, even in this film. I loved Tom Holland's Spider-Man. This is my favorite movie I've ever seen Tom Holland's Spider-Man in. I thought that was really awesome. There's great development for Thor, Iron Man, so many characters. This is an exciting movie, and I just love it so much. It got me so hyped for Endgame and the future of the MCU. This is, in my opinion, the best Avengers film. So yep, I'm sorry, Endgame is not going to make this list. What could be number 1 though?
Logan, of course, the final outing of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Yep, Logan. It's my favorite superhero movie of all time. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, actually, and it's very different from anything else on this list. It's barely a superhero movie. It's more aligned with something like the Unforgiven style Western, and it's so gritty. It's so amazing. I mean, the action sequences are ridiculous. This is my favorite action I've seen in any movie, and it's just so down to earth too. It doesn't need CGI or big spectacle. It just has Wolverine with his claws fighting against a bunch of men. It's shot so well, some slow motion, such great development between Hugh Jackman, Charles Xavier. There's so much here. I don't know how it missed any acting nominations. That really pissed me off, but I think it speaks for itself. That's the first superhero movie to ever get nominated for a writing award at the Oscars for adapted screenplay. That was really impressive, and it was so warranted. This movie is so impactful. Yeah, you could say the villains are weak, but that's not the purpose of the story. I don't care about it. That's a 5-star movie right here for me. Easily. I mean, the ending is just so tear-jerking. This movie is such a climax for the character of Wolverine, who's easily been one of the best, most important characters in all of superhero movies during the 21st century, and Hugh Jackman plays him wonderfully. You introduce X-23, who's a great character. Her relationship between Wolverine is just amazing. Such a beautiful movie. It's so poetic. It transcends super movies completely. The direction is amazing. The screenplay is amazing. The acting is amazing. Everything about this movie is so well done. This is an Oscar caliber film right here, and is easily just takes the cake for my favorite super movie of all time. I hope you enjoyed watching this list. Make sure to comment below your opinion on the best super movies of all time. Like and subscribe for more awesome film content. Tons more coming soon. And I'll see you guys later from Film Frenzy. Goodbye.